Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural Gold and Silver podcast with Michael Weiner. Michael is a very storied professional in the gold and silver industry, and I'll introduce you to him in a second. But just suffice it to say, this is our inaugural podcast, our inaugural launch, and we want to share with you in a moment what we're about, what we hope to do for you and with you. But in the meantime, let me share a little bit about Michael and his background. He has been in the industry for well over 4 decades now, and he has done several billion dollars in transactions. At one point, he had his own TV show during 1979, 1980, a show called Let's Talk Gold and Silver, which we're replicating here today and on an ongoing basis. And in general, Mr. Weiner has done amazing things in the industry, co-founder and partner of another entity he was involved in during the 1990s and 2000s. So he's got a very amazing background. I'm happy and excited to share his expertise and wisdom with all of you. And Michael, with that, why don't you share with the group, and maybe you can even fill in if I missed anything about your career, but why don't you share with the group what the purpose of this podcast is going to be going forward?
My pleasure, Ray. What we're trying to do is try to do something totally unique to this conceptual idea of talking about gold and silver. We're really talking about how you can do and work with it within your financial program, within your own financial investment position, portfolio. Too many times our industry and the financial planning industry are at odds. They bang heads. When you go to your financial planner and say, I'm interested in owning gold, the first thing they say is, you don't need gold. It's too risky. Or on the other hand, we can put you into gold ourselves and handle it. And that's more out of control than most of the time out of common sense. Most of the time you're offered ETFs or paper gold, and that's not what you're trying to accomplish in owning gold. You want to have something physically, tangibly that you control. And what Ray and I are trying to do with all of you over the next year, hopefully years ahead, is explain to you the value of how working together gives you a really good balanced portfolio. Gold is not a main part of your portfolio. If anything at all, we don't recommend most of the time more than 20% of your net worth maximum. You do what's fine for yourself. So the other 80% or 85 or whatever you choose is in assets that people like Ray, and he's an expert, sit back and position you in. We are the end of a ship, the anchor. We work with you. But too many times, as I've said, this lack of cohesiveness throws you off and you go in the wrong direction. And a lot of time it hurts you, it hurts us, and it hurts the financial people because ultimately people move on. There's a lot of things ahead of us in the years ahead. We are a different country today than we were previously, and there's a lot of need for us to move together to make it better. Am I not right, Roy, with this, Ray?
Absolutely. It takes a team effort to pull together something that makes sense for pretty much everybody. And it's interesting to me, we don't fail to plan to fail, rather, we fail to plan. And part of the whole idea of the show is to plan properly so that you have not only some physical goal, you mentioned tangibility. My goodness, all you have to do is look at banks. They're accumulating gold at a faster rate than they have in the last 55 years. And you have to ask yourself, why is an entity that has made its living and its fortunes on creating paper money suddenly buying gold and silver? If it's good enough for them, it ought to be good enough for us. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree. Not only banks, but central banks. When you hear the word central banks, that's like the Federal Reserves of nations are buying gold.
That's right.
When people say to me, Ray, why do people, well, what's the big deal about central banks buying gold? Well, I don't see them buying stock. They buy gold as a tangible asset to balance their paper assets. And that's what we're trying to do here, just as well as the fact with gold, there's a balance of having good, solid financial positioning by a solid financial backing and planning team like yours, Ray, who can put together the bigger picture and tie it into something that we're going to be going into, ladies and gentlemen, which is a really updated and up-to-the-minute trust that combines all of your financial assets that are set up by Ray and his people, combined with gold into a really modern day tank against the slings and arrows of an economic system that seems to be a roller coaster.
Total roller coaster, and we don't know where it's going at this point, other than in the wrong direction, seems to me. And thanks for sharing that. That's important. So the whole idea, it was central banks that I was referring to it. And again, it's interesting that they're in the business of converting paper assets to hard assets. They're doing it with gold, they do it with companies, they do it with real estate. So people have got to get the idea, and most people in my industry won't share that. I share all the time. So you know what? You should have some real estate. Doesn't help me at all, but I have a real estate background. I used to be a real estate broker, owned a real estate franchise. I was a HUD correspondent lender, so I've been on the lending side as well. And I love real estate, and I think all of my clients should have some. They should have some real estate, they should have some physical gold, and they should do it all in a way where they mitigate taxes and protect their assets from liability.
And that's totally right. See, this, ladies and gentlemen, this is the whole picture. Trying to work not against things like real estate that Ray's talking about that he can tie into your portfolio, gold, as we're talking about, and other excellent investments that financial planners like Ray can put you into, but tying it into a cohesive package. And right now, we're living in a period of time where people sit back and hear the doom and gloom. The world's not coming to an end, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to be going to the grocery store and bartering. It's ridiculous. Theoretically, when we went off the gold standard in 1971, we've been bartering. Your money says promissory note on it. It's nothing more than monopoly money. So theoretically,
Right.
you're already bartering, Ray. So the idea of the world coming to an end is not the issue. It's how the country changes. And without getting into politics, we have changed as a nation. And we have to sit back and change our views individually before we take a hit that sometimes financially you will not recover from. Just like some of the people in 2008 never recovered.
Well, that's a perfect segue for the next question I'd like to ask you, Michael, and that is, how do people protect themselves in one way using gold? What is and where is the opportunity in gold right now?
Well, there's three ways you can buy gold. You can buy paper gold, you can buy present day metals like bullion or regular coins, or you can buy the private metal or what's called the numismatic coins. Those three different ways are available. Understand the fact, paper asset gold, when people call up and say, well, my financial planner, Ray, and we've talked about this with a number of your clients that we had to help out, that you had literally restructured their program and also got them into a very good position with this new trust situation that we're going to coordinate for y'all. But they buy paper assets, paper golds. Gold stock, ladies and gentlemen, in 1979, and I was there live to coin an old phrase and not Memorec. I was there, Memorec, and I was there when legitimately gold went up almost 600 times in value in 1979 in 4.5 months, from a late $150, $160 an ounce almost to 800 by January of 1980. People who had gold stock gained nothing because the gold companies were drawing profits out and not leaving it there for the investors. ETFs that exist right now are doing nothing than betting on the market, just like a futures contract. You're not going to take delivery of a futures contract. You're going to sit back and sell it to make money. Our goal is putting you into a tangible asset, one that you control
That's right.
physically, either in your possession, in your IRA, or stored for you at a private facility that you choose, where you have something that you can touch and feel, not get another piece of paper. It's not accomplishing anything.
Once again, the difference between paper and hard assets, right?
Absolutely. Hard assets are hard. They're not something you can crumble up. There's nothing more. I've had people many, many years ago, and an old farmer I dealt with back in the 70s used to tell me he had a couple of gold coins on his counter in his kitchen and a silver bar. And he said, every morning that got me going. I look at that and that got me excited. He didn't have $100 of bills there. He just had that gold and silver. So, everybody owns paper. Everybody has dollar bills or hundreds or 50s or whatever in their wallets. And every robber or every criminal knows that. But boy, when they hear you have gold in your house, I assure you, you might have a stranger knocking on your door. That's a totally different thing than any more paper, ladies and gentlemen.
That's true, which raises a question for me. Why don't you share with the audience, if somebody wants to buy this in any sort of quantity, what's the best way to store it and protect it?
That's a good point. And right now it's more important than ever. We're on the precipice of major changes right now. People are hearing digital currency. People are hearing government taking over and getting rid of your financial and transactional freedom. All of these things, we're hearing banks that don't want to accept cash. We're hearing all kinds of things. So if you're going to buy gold, it's really important how you store it. You either store it in a safe deposit box if you can, if it's the proper gold that you can store in a safe deposit box, which in most cases is numismatic, you can use that. You can use a private safe within your house. You can use a private safe deposit box storage that we have different companies that can offer that to you. Or you can use a fireproof box, but whatever you keep in the house, it should be fireproof. It should not be just a plain box. And one other thing I highly recommend, do not tell people you own gold. Don't share your gold ownership with people. You don't need somebody sitting at a coffee shop saying, oh yeah, my friend Jack and his wife Janet, they have a bunch of gold. And all of a sudden somebody's sitting behind them that just got out of prison. It's not a wise idea.
Yeah.
Keep your gold ownership private, very personal.
Yes, but you'd be like holding up a sign says, come rob me, right?
Exactly. Put a sign on your back like the old kick me signs. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
is it expensive to have gold stored by a specific facility that does that?
Yes and no. It's really not. We have a couple good ones that we recommend that are private and insured. One of them is insured by Lloyd's of London. They're very modest, but depending on what you're buying, and a lot of things, if you're buying $4,000 or $5,000 of gold, you don't need a depository to do that. When you get up to the larger amounts, 25,000 and over, you can consider that. But the biggest problem that people have in gold ownership is number one, sharing the information. Number two, not storing it properly and putting it in a fireproof situation. And then the depository thing is making sure you're using one that offers insurance and has a good history, at least 10 years or more, and that's approved by the federal government. About a year or so ago, a safe deposit box facility in Beverly Hills, California was raided by the FBI, and they emptied out all the boxes. That's because it wasn't accredited and approved by the federal government. It's really important that you do that, because you don't need to have, like those people did, millions of dollars taken from you because you didn't put it in the right place. And that also plays along with the situation of why it's important to own gold. Because if you think about it, Ray, yes, you position people's portfolio, you put them in investments, you structure a trust. But if God forbid something happens that they need the immediacy of control, they need to get their hands on it quickly. I mean, and all of a sudden your dollar bills are non-negotiable, like what happened on April 5th, 1933, when Roosevelt shut it all down, and you couldn't even negotiate currency. When you own gold, you own an asset that, I assure you, if you're running around trying to get something to eat and somebody walks in with a bunch of stock certificates and I walk in with some gold coins, I'm eating and you're not.
Oh, good point. Wasn't it, excuse me, wasn't it President Roosevelt that also confiscated gold during that time?
Well, yes, he did. And there's a lot of misconceptions. It wasn't about gold, Ray. What Roosevelt did was a total restructuring of our economy. He wanted to get a gateway to get all this profitability of gold as a means of getting extra dollars, because we were backed by gold in those days. And then ultimately, when he changed the currency, also silver. But if you had a dollar bill and it said gold certificate or silver certificate on it, and you went into a Federal Reserve Bank, they had to give you gold and silver. It said pay the bearer. What Roosevelt did is legitimately make it illegal to own gold because he feared it. Because when the US dollar, when he devalued the currency on April 5th, 1933, and issued new money on May 1st, 65% of the currency in the United States of America were gold coins. Your grandfather and mine carried around gold coins as money. And they had a $20 gold piece that was an ounce of gold, because gold was par value to the US dollar. A $10 was half ounce, $5, a quarter ounce, $2.50, a 10th ounce, and then a $1 was point whatever, and then silver. Men and women carry change purses. If you go to an antique store and try to get a wallet, you're going to come up with a change purse. American citizens did not trust paper money. When Roosevelt took the idea of owning gold coins away, he made it illegal. And if you didn't turn in your gold, you went to prison for 5 years and a $10,000 fine per count. Now, what happened, quite interestingly, is what did they pay you for this gold? When he devalued the dollar on April 5th and gold was equal value, when he came back out on May 1st with the new money, gold was almost $42.50. So he didn't give people the right to offset their losses with their gold coins. They needed to turn their gold in. And they didn't pay him $42.50. They didn't even pay him the old par value of $20 an ounce. They paid him 10 cents, 50 cents on the dollar. You got half of your money out of it. And if you didn't turn it in and you got caught, you went to prison, and people went to prison for owning one gold coin.
Wow. And not much has changed with the federal government, it seems.
Well, now you go to prison if you say the wrong word, or if you happen to go to an event that you're just going as a bystander and you land up in prison, guilt by association. We don't want to get into a show on the First Amendment and all the rest of it, because we got enough of founding fathers flipping over in their graves right now.
Oh, true that, true that. So what is, I think when I first met you and heard about you, it was through the Mark Levin show on Sunday nights, because, you're affiliated with and one of the executives at Swiss America. And one of the first conversations I had with you was asking, what can I invest in the way of gold that's unconfiscatable? Is there such a thing?
Yes, there is. According to the Roosevelt Law, Section 2, Paragraph B, any gold of rare or collectible value is exempt from confiscation and reporting. So, in all due respect, that's why a lot of people buy the numismatics. Some companies don't recommend it. The reason why they don't is they can't afford to carry it. Simple as that. When you have gold eagles or any of the what's called bullion coins, they're exchange traded. What does that mean? If you go to the New York Commodity Exchange, turn the page, you'll see a listing of all these gold coins, what you should get paid for it. And for anybody who has any of those, make sure you check that when you sell it, because coin shops and pawn shops are notorious for undervaluing what you should get. So always check on the New York COMEX if you own some of the everyday coins. Some of those coins are reportable when you sell them. They are all confiscatable under that rule that went on in 1933. When some people say, well, the government will never confiscate, seriously? Seriously. In today's world, when we see what's going on, when we see the demonstrations in the street by people who are favoring terrorists in my country, and your country too, and if we're sitting back and watching things going on against civil liberties, we probably should make sure that we don't take anything for granted. I don't think if somebody told you a year ago you would see what's going on in this country today, or 10 years ago, the changes, and some of them are good, but changes happen. And one thing that has been constant is the government has been notorious for emancipating property and taking over assets. So please don't be naive enough to not think that privacy is not worthwhile. Again, some companies don't like the collectibles because of the fact that you have to carry inventory in them. If you sell the other coins, which is like Krugerrands, Maple Leafs, Gold Eagles, things of that nature, you can use a secondary supplier and have it drop shipped. You don't have to carry any inventory. So it's quite easy to be able to supply it. Whereas the collectibles are more, you got to have the money to have it. And the company I'm affiliated with has that capability.
And what other capabilities do they have? I think one of them is you, at the request of an owner of currency that they bought from you, that you'll buy it back from them at current market prices.
Absolutely. Our company, Swiss America, we offer actually the most competitive and comprehensive repurchase program in the industry. One of the things that makes us comprehensive is we're the only company in the industry that offers the ability to track your portfolio on your iPad, your iPhone, or your computer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We don't hide your values from you or what you can get paid for. We want you to know what you can get paid for, because we look at our clients as a source of inventory that we buy back from them as a means of in enhancing our own inventory. So, ladies and gentlemen, it must work. We've been around over 40 years, and reality being, we've got over 80,000 clients or more, close to 100,000, that a lot of them aren't going anywhere unless they go to a better place.
And that place probably doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Michael, you part of this statement you made just previously, the words that came to my mind is err on the side of caution. And owning physical gold is a way to err on the side of caution in the event of some circumstance that requires access to real money, because fiat money is not real money.
well,
Gold and silver is.
Well, you've got to understand, again, your end of things, Ray, is putting together a portfolio with some of your products that you offer, which is all very comprehensive, would matches anybody else, but also offer them if they want to real estate. But for meltdowns in the country, let's go back to 2008. That's when you saw a proliferation of companies in the gold industry historically. Why? Because the thing that went up to protect people, from most people's knowledge, was gold. Immediately you heard the word safe haven. Safe haven gold, safe haven gold. You hear that globally.
Right.
And gold went up and more than tripled. By 2011 November, it was almost $2,000 an ounce. So gold goes up to protect you as other things go down, so you can sell off your gold, so you don't have to make paper losses that you might have, Ray, with some of your portfolio you put your clients in, and make them permanent losses. You can sit back and deal with your profitability in gold. And that's what it's all about. Now, in 1979, when they all talk about the greatest craziness in the country's history, when interest rates went to 21%, mortgages didn't even exist. Inflation was over double digits, thought to 14%. Gold went up 600%. You sold off your gold to offset your losses elsewhere. There were gasoline lines. People who are old enough to remember, like me, they went over by your license plate number, and you could go to get gas once a week. And that's when gas was just $1.80. Geez, well, look where we're at right now, if you're talking about change. And we accept it. We accept it.
So what do you think is driving gold prices right now? Where do you see it through, say, 2024? I know you can't predict and nobody's going to hold you to it, but based on the geopolitical situation, based on the domestic situation politically, which is just a complete circus, what do you see for gold in the near future?
Well, I think a few things that are going to be very dramatic. I have two theories of investing, the WAG theory and the SWAG theory through the years, the wild ass guess and the sophisticated wild ass guess. I think that if you've been in the market long enough, you follow the trends of how things are moving. Right now, yes, central banks in countries are buying gold. We're watching the BRICS, which is the Chinese people, jumping into gold right now as a means of backing some of their currency with gold up to percentages that we don't know yet, but they're planning on doing it. We're watching nations dumping the US dollar as their reserve currency, including some of the people that Nixon set up, like Saudi Arabia, when he told us we're going off in 71, yellow gold to black gold. But the things that are really sort of sticking in my eyes are the hedge funds, which have been avoiding gold like crazy. I believe you're going to see them hedging bets in gold this year dramatically. That's why you see people like JP Morgan coming out predicting $2,300 gold the first quarter. I think that you could see a very dramatic year. I think that the day of gold being below $2,000 an ounce will become like when gold went over $1,000 an ounce and ultimately never went below it again. I think 2,000 will be the new 1,000, but depending on how ridiculous we treat this economy this year, and I don't, this optimistic situation of how great the markets are and everything's going wonderfully well, that's great, but not putting aside the doom and gloom. Every time there's a major collapse in the market, it's right after a big blow up on the upside. So you got to be very vigilant And I would be buying gold right now and looking at it heading up between 2,500 and 3,000 by year end, depending on how foolish we are with the economy. And if things get out of hand geopolitically, which it seems to happen every day, that our
Yeah, it
enemies
gets worse.
don't fear us and our allies don't trust us right now.
Yeah. Boy, that's a true statement. That's a very true statement. Well, that's a good prediction. I think I agree with that as well. Just everything points to it, certainly. And as you mentioned, every time the economy has collapsed, it was always preceded by euphoria. So I'm not fooled for one moment that this thing is going to continue. I like to say, how long will a balloon fly with a hole in it? Right now, there's so many stinking holes in our economy and in the global monetary system that it only has one place to go, and that's down, in my opinion.
Well, then what are you doing with your clients and how does your new trust program tie into your end of the investing right now, Ray? What are your directions for your people?
Well, mostly I'm doing a lot the risk-free style investing right now, where they have no downside and nothing but upside. In different products, they have a floor of zero. They're always sidestepping or going up, no, never down. So we're guaranteeing their portfolios, and I've been doing that now, expecting the worst in the economy for the last 2, 3 years at least. We've been slowly moving our clients into a position of strength and a position of guarantees, and this way they don't have to suffer any losses. Because frankly, if you lose 20, 30, 40, 50% of the markets. And it's happened since 2000. We've had two different periods of time where we lost 47% over the course of a few months. Even from 2000 through 2002, we lost over 47% in that 3-year period. So if you lose 50% on a portfolio of any size, what do you have to earn just to get back to even? The answer is 100%. So if you have 100,000, you lose 50, you've got 50. You have to earn 100% on that 50 just to get back to 100. And so we avoid them having to make up losses, which is a big deal. I think it was Warren Buffett says, protect your principal, protect your principal, protect your principal. Don't lose money. And so that's been the focus of my clients. And especially as you get closer to retirement, you don't have time to make corrections. That's not the time to be getting risky or to be taking chances. So we take all that into consideration. And most importantly, one of the best things we're doing, and something I've been doing now for 4 years. 4 years ago, I came across a law firm that had a copyrighted trust. This copyrighted trust has been around since the early 1950s, Michael. It's over 70 years of history. And it will protect, it's 100% bulletproof with protecting your assets, and tax mitigation is unprecedented. So it'd be a little bit too involved. We'll probably, over the course of time, as we do more and more of these podcasts, we can unwind it little by little because there's a lot there. But suffice it to say, I haven't paid taxes in 4 years. None. And that's because of this trust. And there are others out there that claim to have trust like this, but they don't have the history we do, and they're not compliant. Some of them are just outright problems, and the IRS is after them. But we have the opinion letters, the IRS certification letters to prove it all, and we have the backing and the history behind us. So it's
Wonderful.
it's
Wonderful. It sounds like
fantastic.
that trust situation I've looked into with you. It's really exciting. And that's something that can be gone on here. I think that, one of the things you mentioned about Warren Buffett, if people follow what Warren Buffett has been doing recently, Warren Buffett for the last several years has not been buying stocks. He's been buying companies, tangible companies in the railroad industry, in the automobile industry. He's been buying gold. He's been buying hard, tangible things that he controls, not paper. And it's very interesting. Why is he doing that? I think because he sees the gap right now, and probably in what's going on with the hedge fund boys and gals and the rest of the people out there that are speculating. I think that what we're going to try to do here in this podcast with people is give them a refreshing viewpoint, give them good information, not trying to scare the daylights out of you, and more importantly, trying to bring reality to you without getting so technical. By the end of the time you're talking, you're totally confused about what they're saying.
Right.
Gold is a safe haven. If you keep that in mind, the reason why it's been called that, since the only thing that existed since Christ walked the earth, and before, when people make that statement, back in, if you ever read the book, The Rise and the Fall of the Roman Empire, which will probably, it's a great way of getting rid of any sleeping problem whatsoever. Just get the rise of the fall of the Roman Empire, make sure you hold it up briskly because it's extremely heavy. It's like a Bible. And you read in the book, and at the beginning of the Roman Empire, which ruled the world for 1,000 years, ladies and gentlemen, understand the fact that initially their money was gold and silver coins. At the end, they were bronze. Nobody wanted it. Wonder why? Wonder
Yeah,
why? Okay, so that was before. So I don't see people diving in the ocean for dollar bills because that just sort of melts away and
right.
erodes. The gold and silver sort of sits there. So I think there's a lot to the old simple adage of where we're at. I think you can look at what you should do in your portfolio, and then look how we can help you, and if it makes sense to you, because the people who win and lose are not myself, it's not Ray, it's you. This is your money. It's not
Right.
a personal thing for us. It's business. For you, it is personal, because if you lose that money personally. And that goes for any financial person that you have working for you. I mean, they do the best they can, but at the end of the day, if you lose all your money, they don't. So be one-dimensional in that regard to yourself and your family. And that's what we're here to do, to work with you on, give you ideas how to be a one-dimensional controlled individual, take advantage of having a melded portfolio between your financial planning, what you would do with Ray, and with your goal that you would do with us. And I think this coming year is going to be one of the most decisive years in this nation's history, both geopolitically and financially. So I
Totally
think
agree.
there's never been a more important time to sit back and rethink your position.
Yeah,
Rethink.
and I've been doing that for a lot of my clients in anticipation of all this happening because it's very real.
Very
And I
good.
think unless you have your head in the sand, you know what they say, when your head's in the sand, the problem is your butt is exposed.
Yeah, right.
And like the old ostrich.
You know,
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was going to give people, I know we're coming close to the end of the show, for our first show here, and I was going to give you a good number to contact us. If you'd
Sure.
like to talk to myself or my team, you can reach us at 602-513-3646. Again, 602-513-3646. My people will sit back and coordinate meetings, and be more than happy to spend one-on-one time with you doing some planning, and then referring you over to Ray to do some further planning, and having a really circular relationship, not just banging heads, but circular.
Hey, and by way of disclosure, you're who I get my gold from, and you've taken great care of me, Michael. And I've always appreciated the fact that you have such an amazing depth of knowledge. The way I feel like I have in my business, you certainly have it in the gold and silver business.
Well,
So we thank you for that.
I always tell people that I either know more than I should or forgot more than most of them think they know. But, I was fortunate enough to have learned and had some exposure with a guy by the name of Franz Pick, P-I-C-K, Dr. Franz Pick, who literally was probably one of the great, brilliant minds in the gold industry back in the 50s, the 60s, a Swiss financial person, and Dr. Henry Jarecki, and the people who started off the New York Commodity Exchange, and literally went to Nixon and knocked on the door to get gold available. I bought my first gold coin for $36.50, a 1-ounce Krugerrand, years and years ago. And what has it gone up in value over the last 40 years? It's now like almost over close to $2,000. Tell me what you own that's gone up over 60 times in value.
And I know you still have it.
That would be great. That would be true. And so again, I guess we all look forward to getting together again, Ray.
Absolutely. And just
and
FYI, I did post your number in the chat window for people to see. So when they watch this video replay or listen to the podcast, they'll see it verbally and in print as well.
Wonderful. Very good. I look forward to many, many days ahead of being able to help people and taking questions that we could deal with and working together, Ray. Have a Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you, Michael. Thank you so much. It was a great, great podcast. Lots of good information, and your experience shines through, my friend. Until next time,
Very
signing off.
good. Merry Christmas.
Take
Bye.
care. Merry Christmas. Bye bye.